55% of the workers are there. I would have done the different thing, Shep. I would have said 35% of our workers aren't there. Now, why aren't they? Well, some COVID, obviously, but a lot of them, repetitive work. And when there's repetitive work, we call it the Great Resignation. People don't want to work in repetitive work. They've had some time to think.
Sure.
They spent some time at home. They have a little extra cash. We know that from J.P. Morgan's call. And they're saying, you know what? I actually want a different life.
Yeah. Let's talk about the winners. Who's navigated this labor shortage well?
Williams-Sonoma. Why? They laid no one off, so they didn't have to worry about bringing back people. Laura Albert decided, you know what? If we go and selectively say, you know what, we're going to shut this West Elm and that West Elm and you're done, if we reopen, they won't come back. Let's keep them on. Let's take the hit. Brilliant.
As a result of the aftermath, unemployment in the United States surged to 15% in March of 2020. Many firms were forced to close as a result of the coronavirus, and others were forced to make significant cost-cutting decisions. Thanks, in part to government's failure to control the situation, people must take actions to endure the turbulent times that lie ahead. Given a new acceptance of the status quo in the workplace, the unemployment rate has fallen to 6%, which is still significantly higher than the 3.5% floating around before the recession. However, it is undeniably a significant improvement. In fact, the United States is now confronted with an entirely new situation. A seemingly paradoxical issue, which is, people are no longer having difficulty finding work. This is because people are hard to come by in the job market. Due to widespread labor shortages, several of the country's major firms have offered potential recruits $50 merely to show up for a job interview in Australia. Uber is providing a $500 bonus to everyone who signs up as a driver and completes 50 deliveries in 60 days. Furthermore, those same companies are being forced to offer higher compensation and prospects for advancement beyond the minimum wage that they have traditionally paid to entry-level employees, so this appears to be a good thing. What's not to enjoy about dropping unemployment, growing pay, and improving conditions? Then, how about people that own fast food franchises and other small or medium-sized enterprises? This have actually got a few economists pretty worried. Firstly, what does this mean to the recovery of the American economy as a whole? Then, why are economists concerned about people having their choice of jobs with better pay and conditions? Finally, what could this situation do to the long-term prospect of economy? And what is the best way to take advantage of this apparent surge in demand for new employees? Welcome to Business Wisdom, the channel where we talk about economic, business, and investing. Before that, please hit the like and subscribe button to help the channel grow, and comment down what topic you want to be discussed in this channel. Now to the video. So, you've certainly heard the term full employment thrown around a lot by politicians and economists, and it's even one of the Federal Reserve Bank's main goals. However, the term full employment is a little deceptive. This means zero unemployment, but it doesn't. For starters, that's never been achieved, because in a large economy like the United States, someone will always be unemployed. So, economists have all agreed that it's a low rate of unemployment, but it'll never be zero. The first approximation is based on what's known as the natural rate of unemployment. What this means is that the only people who are willing and able to work, but are not currently working, either temporarily between jobs before starting a new role at a new company, or out of the job market for training up to work in a different role. Unemployment like this is known as frictional and structural unemployment respectively. These are normally seen as the good type of unemployment, or at least the type of unemployment that isn't terrible, like the one occurred during the financial crisis.
Down by between 3 and 4.5% generally across these markets. Let's talk about the speed with which we are watching this market deteriorate. We're red everywhere, essentially, down by 4-5%.
We're down over 16%. Dow at the same time has fallen about 18%.
The stock market is now down 21%.
Because we're now down 43%.
What in the world is happening on Wall Street?
Two-year no yields went from 190 to 166 in the blink of an eye.
On the NASDAQ, everything and more has been completely wiped out.
It was the worst day on Wall Street since the crash of 1987.
From the financial capital of the world.
We are usually afraid of unemployment caused by changes in the business cycle, because when an economy goes into a recession, there is naturally less demand, which means fewer employees are needed to meet that lower level of demand. As a result, people are going to get laid off and lose their income, which means they can't afford to buy as much, and the vicious cycle of cyclical unemployment continues. Imagine a world with 10% unemployment. It shouldn't be that difficult, because it was literally the world a year ago. If you are the unlucky one out of every 10 that finds themselves involuntarily out of work, then you are in trouble. Any job opening is going to have a lot of potential applicants, and a lot of applicants that will be willing to work for rock-bottom wages just so they can get a job. This also really sucks for the frictionally and structurally unemployed as well, because they might be training up for jobs that are no longer available. Finally, the labor market is a market like any other, and more people looking for fewer jobs means more supply, less demand, and ultimately lower wages. The opposite is also true, but to a greater extent. If unemployment falls below a certain level, we will have a situation where almost everyone who wants a job will get one.
Starting these businesses, people who are fed up with their old business. They're going in against the people that used to work for. It's an amazing moment in capitalism, Shep. People want it for themselves. The entrepreneurs are making their move right now. They're saying, I can do it. We haven't had anything like this in a long time.
If you are an employer and you post a job opening, you might find that literally nobody applies. So maybe you have to offer a slightly higher salary, or poach people from other workplaces with attractive signing bonuses, or maybe even pay people $50 just to show up for a job interview. A little bit of this is great. It gives the working pool of labor a bit more negotiating power, but too much can cause a problem too. There is certainly a good argument for a higher minimum wage, but what happens if restaurants had to pay all of their employees $50 to $100 an hour just to get enough people to work? These businesses' salary expenses will just make it impossible for them to continue operating. Therefore, they will shut down, lowering the number of goods produced. Just for fun, let's look at an example. There is a good supply of burgers in circulation, which means that the burger joints that are still open are doing well. But will they be able to charge a premium for their operating cost in this case? Is labor and raw material in turn a profit, as their costs are increasing rapidly? Now, with that out of the way, how do the government fix this mess? Well, the challenge is more so in keeping unemployment as low as possible without racking up too much debt or inflation. The government works very hard to keep unemployment as low as possible, because it is politically popular. This is done either directly, by hiring people in government roles, or indirectly, by running an expansionary fiscal budget. There's also a second option, which is that it can create a whole new category of unemployment that doesn't get nearly as much attention as these other ones. The institutional unemployment. This is unemployment that is caused by institutional policies that impact the labor market. This can be anything from a mine getting shut down because the workers threaten to unionize, to companies refusing to hire workers of a particular race or gender, but more commonly it has to do with government intervention in markets. There is an argument being made by a broad group of economists today that the measures taken to protect people from the direct economic repercussions of the coronavirus were too generous. Unemployment insurance combined with supplements of up to $300 per week, compounded by multiple stimulus checks, have meant that people are making more money by not working than they would be making in the industries. On top of that, going to work also includes hidden costs, like paying for transport, childcare, eating out, and more. Then this decision makes logical fiscal sense. What's more is that there is still a global pandemic going on. Given the choice between staying home or working in food services, where you'll come into contact with hundreds of people in a given day, I think I would know which choice I will be taking, even if the earning potential was high. But given the context of the world that we live in right now, you would need to pay me a pretty healthy premium for taking that risk. Now, this entire process effectively means that the non-accelerating inflation rate of unemployment can shift. Following the recession in 2008, this rate spiked up by 1% to just under 6%. Of course, that never really became a problem, because unemployment at this time was hovering over 8%. But today we are in a potentially worse economic situation than we were back then, given that there are real material constraints on the economy. There are not enough computer chips, not enough food, not enough cars, and not enough of basically everything.
Here, call me.
Yes.
Mr. Powell, first I want to know why you allowed a lot of renegade trading where guys made a lot of money based on what you were about to say.
So you don't think there'll be any questions about this?
Let me finish. This is a two-part question, Mr. Powell.
Okay, Jim.
And secondly, why have you let rampant inflation continue when you probably even yourself, have you been to the movies? Have you been to the supermarket? How much is milk?
Been to a
How much is Oatly?
lately, yeah.
And then third, we have Toast on. We did Toast came public today, and they're talking about restaurant prices going up. So, Mr. Powell, you're a disaster.
Let's not ignore the fact that we are still in a crisis right now. It surely makes sense that unemployment should be higher, and the relentless obsession by governments to drive this figure to be as low as possible is driving it beyond where it actually should be in a properly functioning economy, which is giving us all of the weirdness that we are seeing in the world right now. So, how this will impact us? A person currently earning $30 per hour face a risk of working for $20 per hour. He may default on payments on the new Ford F-150 he overpaid for, causing greater problems than these temporarily increased wages. This can either happen with government policies helping big companies, or large companies themselves start firing and hiring new cheaper employees. This is not to be too pessimistic, but rather a fact that must be taken account for. What can you do to take advantage of all of this? Well, now is the ideal time to start looking for a new job with a higher income. Because, for the first time in history, employers are competing for people, rather than the other way around. According to studies, individuals who stay with their firms for more than 2 years are paid 50% less than their peers, who are more willing to switch jobs for a promotion, a wage raise, or just better working conditions. Getting the most out of your efforts is always a smart idea. That's all for today's video. Business Wisdom, signing out.